Hello, Davy and Rebecca. It's really good to see you. For anybody who's not aware, I'm Sharon Verdi, the Equality and Diversity Partner at Heriot-Watt, and I'm really excited because we've been working with the White Ribbon Campaign Scotland over the last year, and it's an ongoing partnership that we are having with White Ribbon Scotland, and we are working with our Fearless Edinburgh partners as well. So we've got some questions for you. So I hope you're looking forward to answering them, and we'll just get started.
Yeah, I was involved with White Ribbon Scotland due to my work with the police. And that was my first contact with them. I was in working in CID and investigating serious sexual offences and other public protection matters of that type. And that brought me into contact with the then campaign director for White Ribbon Scotland, a chap called Callum. And he had introduced me to what it was all about, that White Ribbon Scotland was going to be about encouraging more men to be involved in addressing violence against women. So my first kind of real contact in terms of becoming a stronger part of White Ribbon was that I was due to retire from my role in the police, and I contacted Callum with a view to being a volunteer for a while until I'd maybe taken up employment somewhere, and I would just sort of see whether I could continue with the volunteering role. And it so happened that there was a position became available at White Ribbon Scotland at that time, and I was invited to apply for that, along with a number of other people, obviously. But I was successful in getting that job, and then it's progressed from there to the point that I'm now the campaign director.
I initially got involved with White Ribbon Scotland back in 2018, and that was on a volunteer basis. That happened after I had been sexually assaulted, so it was my choice to kind of go into that area and see what I could do with my own lived experience and how I could take that forward. So it's nearly about 4 years to the day since I joined, and I started off as a volunteer, like I said, for about just over a year of volunteering until I then got a part-time basis, and then a year after that my part-time went up an extra day, and last October we were able to get full-time funding. So I think obviously in the past 4 years that I've been volunteering with White Ribbon, we do a lot of training inputs within colleges and universities, and I'd say about 4 years ago, because there are so many different forms of violence against women, but there were ones that were quite well known about. So if you take the typical like sexual assault, rape, or physical abuse, and that would be the main focus for the people that we were working with and the people we trained. But what we start to notice a lot more now is that kind of awareness around things such as like coercive control, gaslighting, financial abuse. So it's seeing that progress of people understanding what it is. So that's been, I think, one of the biggest impacts, because obviously what comes with a greater understanding comes with a better idea of recognizing it and being able to call it out when they see it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably quite a lot of different ways in which it impacts on the colleges and universities. So trying to define the biggest is quite a difficult one, but that's really a crucial one. I mean, I think there's a general awareness raising about the fact that there is a role for men and boys to play in addressing violence against women. And it's not as if the staff and students of colleges and universities who are male are sitting back thinking this is okay, this is something I don't care, I couldn't care less what happens or something like that. They're just not necessarily being very communicative about it. They're not discussing it regularly. And then so getting some kind of input from an outside agency and then from people within their own community, probably even more crucially, starts to change that and reduce the silence. And that means that people can pick up on all sorts of different pieces of information from each other. So guys can know that there's other guys that are thinking like them. Women can learn that there are allies round about them, when it would be very easy to think there isn't if men just remain silent. So I think that's one of the changes, that it becomes a more open point to discuss. And it starts to have an impact from one college to another. We started with one college in Glasgow, and They did a fantastic campaign, and they're still running. But they were also they were noticed as well because of a process where they were winning awards. They were in a thing called the Green Gown Awards, where they were winning against other major universities up and down the country for the work they were doing to work with staff and students on this subject matter, and the fact that they were working with White Ribbon Scotland. And that was a great sense of pride in the college when they won that award, which enhanced the whole project. But it also meant that, by working with one college, others, obviously there's a lot of links between the colleges and universities, so principals would start talking to each other about it, other members of staff, other student engagement officers and students themselves and student associations, and all those conversations start to make it a thing worth doing. So I think one of the biggest changes is the communication involved in it all. I think that was really fantastic. In terms of culture change within education establishments, the very fact that they're running their own projects within their communities starts to make a difference to the general culture and the thinking around it, because it introduces the people who initially get involved as role models, and it wakens up other people to the fact that they're role models too, and that starts to really change how everybody's talking about things and how people are seeing open doors for them to get involved. I think sometimes we forget about our position in terms of being role models. We think of role models as celebrities and sports stars and things like that. But the real effective role models are the ones within our own communities, including the communities of a college or a university. Sometimes you don't realise that as an older student with more experience in the campus, that younger students do look up to you, or an effective leadership role from somebody who's a lecturer can make a big difference. But also it's really significant that you can have leadership and you can have role models in different places. So if you have somebody who works in the canteen who's taken on board the messages of a campaign like White Ribbon, and that they're having conversations with people about it, that really means something to the folk round about them. And it's often that we don't understand that. We don't sort of recognise that in ourselves.
Obviously, within the training inputs that we do, and then when the colleges and schools kind of the colleges and universities have their steering groups and things like that, and they lead the project. What we are noticing, and I'm pretty sure Davy can agree with me, is this idea that the boys and men are now kind of at the forefront of that. I think for such a long time, I'm not necessarily saying men who are perpetrators, but even those who are allies not feeling like they could speak out and take the lead on this kind of thing. Maybe thinking it's not their place, or they don't have like the right terminology for it and stuff like that. But what we've really started to notice is that with the more campaign statuses that we're doing in the projects, is we're seeing especially like younger men taking the lead on this, which has been really great to see. But also obviously colleges are their own communities within themselves, right? So it's that idea that if that model can work within a smaller community such as in a college, it can then be duplicated outside.
Clearly, there's a big challenge in terms of trying to get this absolutely worldwide and changing attitudes towards male violence against women. But there's a huge opportunity in the fact that White Ribbon campaigns are spread around the world, and we keep in touch with some, but not all, just because that's not always possible. But this is where the work with the colleges and universities can make a huge difference, because there's lots of international connections between colleges and universities around the world. And the way it tends to spread when we have our White Ribbon status projects in Scotland is that somebody who's not involved so far starts to hear the messages at an organisation they're linked with, and then they pick those up and say, right, well, we could be running with this too. So there's a huge opportunity there for influencing way beyond our own boundaries and starting to influence around the world.
Yeah, I think what's really great is, especially with the past 4 years that I've been here, is how much contact we've had with other like White Ribbon campaigns. So we work really closely with White Ribbon UK, White Ribbon Northern Ireland, and White Ribbon the Republic of Ireland. But we also have like international links like Namibia and Ghana, which we love kind of seeing what they're doing and what their work is like in comparison to ours, even though we're trying to get across the same message. So it's really positive to see how some people take the approach and how we can build that into ours.
Thanks so much for taking the time today. It's been so interesting to hear your really positive responses. One of the things I've been taking notes on has been I've really taken a sense of how building community and building pride in that community and tackling this agenda is really, really important, and how that can help get results and bring everybody together around the issue. Communication being really important as well. Is there anything else that you would like to tell us about relating to the White Ribbon campaign?
But I think probably what's quite important is to point out that for a lot of guys, I mean, we might wish it wasn't like this, but the reality is for a lot of guys, they're thinking this isn't their thing. And they're wondering how they get involved, why they should get involved. And this opens up the door for them. And sometimes they say it quite as clearly as that. There was a young student who actually got interviewed as a result of the campaign at his college. He got interviewed by Times Education Supplement. And he was asked about this, about why he was involved. And he pointed out, he says, it's not like I was walking about the rest of my life thinking it was fine to be violent against women. But I never talked about it because I didn't know we really had a role to do that in. And so he was celebrating the idea that getting involved with his college community's White Ribbon campaign opened up the door for him to say what he's really thinking and being a part of trying to bring about change. I love that quote that you gave.
Rebekah, you're on mute.
For the final time for today. Yeah, as a survivor of violence against women, it's been really great to come into this area of work because it's that whole idea of we're tackling the problem, not just the symptoms. We're going straight back to the issue of why do men think that they can engage in this and who enables that behaviour. So as much as services need to be supported, this needs to, I think, take the lead in the sense of if we get this right and people put the resources and the time into our campaign and what we stand for, then you'll be seeing a lot less figures, you'll be seeing a lot less percentages of women who have been assaulted or women who have been involved in domestic abuse. So yeah, I think being able for men and boys to take part and to hold their peers accountable is the best thing any of them can do, and there's so much power in that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a really strong message. I think it's probably worth me locating this in the Heriot-Watt context as well. So as part of our equality outcomes, which we published back in 2021, we made a commitment to tackling violence against women and girls. And as part of that, we have committed to signing up to the White Ribbon campaign. That has meant, as you're aware, going through the project status towards becoming a campaign. And we're doing that from Heriot-Watt itself, but also with our Fearless Edinburgh partners. And we are working on a range of different activities that mean that we should be, before the end of the year, being able to launch our actual campaign status, and which we're really excited about doing. And that's about sustained activity. We are recruiting speakers to be actively involved in communicating the messages around addressing violence against women and girls. And we are making sure that messaging is clear across our university community. And this is just the start. That's the important thing. So I just want to round this off and say thank you so much for your help and guidance so far, and that there is help and support out there for people who need it, and we will signpost at the end of these sessions. Thanks again, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.